They dragged him into the alien arena. Thousands of eyes watched, waiting. And from the shadows, she stepped forward. Blue skin glowing, eyes locked on his. Her voice cut through the silence. Human, if you lose, you're my slave. If you win, you're my king. He raised his blade. She smiled and whispered something no one else could hear, something that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before, a duel that could decide the fate of empires. One human, one alien general, one promise that could end in love or slavery. And when the blade finally struck, it would be too late for either of them to turn back. They dragged him into the alien arena. Thousands of eyes watched, waiting. And from the shadows, she stepped forward, blue skin glowing, eyes locked on his. Her voice cut through the silence. Human, if you lose, you're my slave. If you win, you're my king. He raised his blade, but she smiled and whispered something no one else could hear, something that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. The sound of the crowd was deafening. The arena was a colossal ring of stone and steel, carved into the heart of a jungle world. Towering. Trees with glowing leaves swayed in the wind beyond the walls, their light shimmering like alien lanterns. Every seat was full, thousands of alien faces, each one eager to see blood spilled on the sand below. Captain Ryan Drake stood in the center, his wrists aching from the heavy manacles they had only just removed. His dark combat armor was dented and scratched, his boots coated with the dust of battle. He had fought before, but never like this. Above him, a massive holoscreen flickered to life. Glowing alien symbols twisted into words he could read. Combat TRIAL, winner takes ALL. The announcement sent another wave of cheers through the crowd. Ryan scanned the stands, searching for any sign of his crew, but there was nothing, only hostile faces. He was alone here. A deep horn sounded. From the far shadows of the arena's gate, movement, she appeared. General Soraya Vorn walked with the calm confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Her armor was sleek, black and silver, hugging her athletic frame, each plate carved with sharp alien markings. Her skin glowed faintly under the alien sun, a perfect shade of deep, luminous blue. And her hair. Long, electric blue strands that moved like liquid fire in the wind, in her right hand. She carried a blade unlike anything Ryan had seen. Its edge shimmered with a dangerous blue energy. Like lightning trapped in crystal, she stopped only a breath, away from him, her eyes locked with his, sharp and unyielding. She tilted her head slightly, studying him the way a predator studies prey, human. Her voice was smooth, almost teasing, yet there was steel in it. If you lose, you're my slave. If you win, you're my king. The crowd roared. Ryan's grip tightened on the sword they had thrown him, a heavy, alien-forged weapon, its balance unfamiliar in his hands. He didn't lower his gaze. Why me? He asked. She only smiled. Fight, and maybe I'll tell. You. The announcer's voice thundered over the arena in a language Ryan didn't understand. But the meaning was clear. The duel was about to begin. Soraya stepped back, her energy blade humming as it came to life. Ryan adjusted his stance. His heart pounded not from fear, but from the weight of the unknown. The first strike came fast. It's fast. Her blade flashed toward his neck, and he barely got his sword up in time. The clash sent a shock up his arm. She pushed harder, testing his strength. You're slower than I hoped, she said, her tone almost disappointed. Ryan twisted, breaking the blade lock, stepping back to create distance. He wasn't going to win this with brute force. She was faster, stronger, and this was her home turf. The crowd chanted her name. It felt like the entire arena wanted him to fail. She came at him again, her movements fluid, deadly. Each strike forced him back, sand shifting under his boots. But he noticed something. Her attacks were always aimed to disable, never to kill. Why? Another clash. This time, he held his ground. Their faces were inches apart, the hum of her energy blade filling the air between them. Prove you're worth it. she whispered, too quietly for anyone else to hear. And I'll tell you why you're really here. Ryan's pulse quickened. Oh, she wasn't just here to win, she was testing him. The crowd erupted again as they broke apart, blades swinging. In a blur, Ryan shifted tactics, using unpredictable movements, feints, sudden changes in rhythm. It caught her off guard for a moment, her eyes narrowing in surprise. Better, she muttered. Dust swirled around them as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the arena. Above, dark clouds began to gather, not normal clouds, but ones laced with strange, electric light. Ryan didn't notice them at first. He was too focused on her, on every move, every faint smile, every hint of something she wasn't saying, and then, just as he prepared for another strike, she stopped. Her blade lowered slightly. Her eyes flicked upward. The arena floor trembled. From the stands, shouts of confusion. Stone began to crack, dust falling from the walls. The strange clouds above twisted violently, lightning spiraling toward the center of the arena. Ryan tightened his grip on his sword. What's happening? Saraya's gaze returned to his, and for the first time the playful confidence was gone. They found us, she said, before he could ask who. The ground beneath them split apart with a thunderous crack. The crowd screamed as massive pillars of light shot down from the sky, striking the edges of the arena. In the chaos, Saraya grabbed his arm. Fights. Over, human. Now we run. And without waiting for his answer, she pulled him toward the collapsing gate, their footsteps echoing against the roaring storm that swallowed the arena behind them. The ground still trembled under Ryan's boots as Saraya pulled him through the narrow, crumbling tunnel behind the arena wall. The air was thick with dust and the distant screams of panicked spectators. Every few seconds, the earth shook again, sending fragments of stone crashing around them. Ryan's sword was still in his hand, the weight of it strangely comforting. You want to tell me who's trying to kill us? He asked, his voice sharp over the echo of collapsing walls. Saraya glanced back, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Not here, not yet. They emerged into an open corridor, the alien sun now hidden behind swirling black clouds. Energy bolts rained down in the distance, lighting the sky with flashes of cold white fire. Whatever was attacking the planet was not part of the duelit, was something far worse. Suddenly, 3 armored guards appeared from the far end of the passage, their weapons raised. Ryan stepped forward on instinct. But Saraya moved first, her energy blade ignited with a sharp hum. And in one smooth motion, she cut through the first guard's weapon, spinning to knock the second off his feet. The third lunged at Ryan, and he reacted without thinking, parrying with the alien's sword, then driving his shoulder into the attacker's chest. The guard crumpled to the floor. Not bad for a prisoner, Saraya said, giving him the faintest smile before turning down another corridor. Ryan followed, his mind racing. She was dangerous, beautiful, and unpredictable. And yet, she hadn't tried to kill him when she easily could have. They moved quickly through the alien city beyond the arena. Streets were in chaos, civilians running for cover, alien soldiers shouting orders, strange craft screaming overhead. Gosh, the buildings were tall and curved, made of silver stone that caught what little light filtered through the storm. Saraya finally stopped beneath a covered walkway. Pulling him into the shadows, she was breathing hard, her eyes scanning the sky. You fought well, she said at last. Better than most humans I've seen. Ryan kept his gaze fixed on her. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here because I was captured. She tilted. Her head. Captured. Or chosen. He frowned. You still haven't told me why I was in that arena. Her voice dropped lower, almost as if she didn't want anyone else to hear. Because you're the only one who might survive what's coming. Before Ryan could press her for more, a piercing shriek split the air. He looked up and his stomach tightened. Descending from the clouds were enormous black shapes, their surfaces smooth and seamless, like liquid metal. They weren't ships in the usual sense, they were alive, their wings shifting and curling in ways no machine should. and as they dropped lower, he saw their faces, if they could be called faces, twisting into shapes that seemed to drink in the light around them. The Voidborn. Ryan didn't know the name yet, but he felt the danger in his bones. They weren't here to negotiate. Soraya's hand closed around his wrist. Move. They sprinted through the winding streets, dodging falling debris as the first of the black ships descended over the city. The ground shuddered under the impact, and alien soldiers opened fire, their energy blasts sparking harmlessly against the invader's hull. A Voidborn landed ahead of them, its body tall and thin, arms like blades. Its head turned toward them. With a slow, deliberate motion, Ryan raised his sword. "I'm guessing talking's off the table?" Soraya smirked faintly. "Now you're catching on." The creature lunged. Ryan met it head-on, his sword ringing against the alien metal limb. Sparks lit the air as Soraya darted in from the side, her glowing blade cutting deep into the thing's shoulder. A hiss erupted from its mouth, and black liquid sprayed across. The ground, more of them appeared from the shadows, their movements impossibly fast. "This way," Soraya shouted, pulling Ryan toward a narrow stairwell that led down into the Undercity. They descended quickly, the light above growing smaller until they were swallowed by darkness in the echoing silence below. Ryan's breath came hard. "You going to tell me what those things are?" Soraya's eyes met his in the dim light. "Enemies of both our kinds. And they've already destroyed more worlds than I can count." Ryan gritted his teeth. "And you think I can stop them?" Expression was unreadable, but the smallest hint of a smile tugged at her lips. "I don't think human." "I know." The sound of metal scraping against stone echoed from the tunnel behind them. Whatever was hunting them had followed them underground. The sound in the tunnel grew sharper, like claws dragging across stone. Ryan tightened his grip on the sword, his eyes scanning the shadows ahead. The air was damp, thick with the scent of metal and something foul. Soraya moved beside him, her glowing blade casting a faint blue light on the walls. "They're close," she whispered. The scraping stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Ryan's heartbeat pounded in his ears. Then, without warning, one of the Voidborn dropped from the ceiling right in front of them, its body unfolding like a shadow, tearing itself free from the wall. Its face twisted in a shape that was almost a smile. It struck. Ryan barely managed to block the force of the blow, driving him back against the tunnel wall. Pain shot through his arm, but he pushed forward, twisting his blade and forcing the creature to stumble sideways. Soraya moved in, her strikes fast and deliberate, cutting glowing scars into the Voidborn's armor-like skin.
"Aim for the joints,"
she called. Ryan adjusted instantly, ducking low and driving his sword toward the thing's leg. The blade bit deep, and the Voidborn let out a piercing hiss. But more were coming. Shadows moved in the narrow space, their shapes unnatural, flowing like liquid but hitting with the weight of steel. "Too many," Ryan muttered, stepping back toward Soraya. She gave him a sharp look. "Then fight smarter, not harder." Duh. Words triggered something in him, memories of Earth training drills, where brute strength didn't win but unpredictability did. He shifted his stance, loosening his grip on the sword, letting his movements flow instead of forcing them. The next Voidborn lunged. Ryan sidestepped instead of blocking, letting its momentum carry it into the wall. His sword came down in a single, clean arc, severing one of its blade arms completely. Black liquid hissed on the floor. Soraya's eyes flicked toward him briefly. Better. They fought back to back now, their blades moving in sync. The tunnel became a blur of blue light, steel flashes, and black shapes falling. The Voidborn were fast. But Ryan was faster now. The last one tried to retreat, its body melting into shadow, but Ryan was already moving. He swung in a wide, perfect arc, and the blade sliced through its form, dispersing it into nothing. The tunnel went still again. Ryan stood there, chest heaving, the alien's sword heavy in his hand. Soraya studied him for a long moment. Then she stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You learn quickly, human." He met her gaze. "Or maybe you underestimate me." Her lips curved in the faintest smirk. "Maybe." Before he could ask what she meant, the tunnel shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. From somewhere, deep below, a low, unnatural roar rolled through the ground. Soraya's eyes darkened. That wasn't them. Ryan frowned. Then Hushi grabbed his arm. No time. If you want to live, follow me. They ran deeper into the Undercity, the glow of her blade lighting the way. The roar grew louder, echoing through the dark like something ancient and hungry. And somewhere ahead, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber that neither of them were ready to face. The tunnel ended with a sudden drop. Ryan skidded to a halt, peering into the darkness below. The air was cooler here, carrying the scent of rain and distant vegetation. Far below, faint green lights shimmered like fireflies. Soraya didn't hesitate. She stepped onto a narrow ledge and began climbing down the jagged wall, her blade now clipped to her hip. Don't think. Just follow, she called. Ryan gritted his teeth and followed her lead. The stone was slick, and the sound of distant roars vibrated up through his hands. Somewhere far behind, the tunnel they had just left collapsed with a deep rumble. When they finally reached the bottom, Ryan realized they were no longer underground. They were in a massive canyon, its walls covered in glowing moss. A faint mist floated through the air, and beyond the canyon mouth, dense alien jungle stretched into the horizon. This isn't part of your city, Ryan said, scanning the strange plants that seemed to watch them. It's older, Soraya replied, moving forward, much older. They made their way through the canyon, careful to avoid the pools of still water that reflected strange constellations in their depths. Every sound seemed sharper, hear distant calls of unseen creatures, the rustle of leaves high above, the hum of energy beneath the ground. Ryan caught her glancing at him more than once, as if judging his pace, his awareness, maybe even his resolve. Still, not telling me what's going on? He asked. Her eyes stayed on the path ahead. When we're safe? Maybe? They stepped out of the canyon into the jungle. The air was warm and heavy, filled with the scent of flowers and wet earth. Rose hundreds of feet into the air, their trunks wrapped in vines that pulsed faintly with light. Strange bird-like creatures darted between branches, their wings leaving trails of blue sparks. Ryan slowed, taking it all in. I've never seen anything like this. That's because humans have never been here, Soraya said. And if the Voidborn get their way, no one ever will again. Before Ryan could respond, the ground shook beneath them. A deep, mechanical hum rose from somewhere ahead. Like the heartbeat of a giant, Soraya drew her blade again, the glow brightening. Against the shadows, stay close. They moved toward the sound, stepping over massive roots and ducking under low-hanging vines. The jungle seemed to grow denser until they reached a clearing. Its center stood a towering structure of black stone, covered in alien carvings that pulsed faintly with light. Ryan felt the hair on his neck rise. What is this place? Soraya stepped closer, her voice quieter now. The last stronghold of my people's first king, and the only place the Voidborn fear to enter. As they approached the entrance, a wave of cool air swept out from the open doorway. Inside, faint blue lights glowed in patterns along the walls, forming spirals and shapes Ryan didn't recognize. Then, without warning, a deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. Soraya Vorn, daughter of the throne, you have come at last. Ryan froze. The light at the far end of the room formed into a towering hologram of an alien king tall. Regal, his armor ancient and scarred from battles long forgotten, his gaze shifted from Soraya to Ryan, and you, as the warrior born under a dead star. Ryan's pulse quickened. What are you talking about? The king's voice grew heavier. The destroyers have found this world. Only the bond between you two can stop them. Before Ryan could ask what that meant, the ground shook violently again, dust falling from the ceiling. Outside, the distant mechanical hum of the Voidborn grew louder. Closer, Soraya turned to him, her expression unreadable. You know why I chose you? And in the next instant, the jungle roared with the sound of war. The jungle trembled with the sound of heavy footsteps. Ryan's hand tightened around his sword as branches snapped in the distance, the glow of the alien ruins flickering against the mist. Soraya stepped closer to the ancient hologram. Tell me what must be done. The spectral king's gaze lingered. On Ryan, the Voidborn are not machines. They are hunger given form. They do not conquer planets. They consume them. Entire worlds turn to nothing but silence and ash. Ryan felt the weight in the king's words. Do you think I can? Stop them. I'm just one man. The king's voice deepened. You are not just one man. You are the one the stars themselves named in the first prophecy. A warrior born under a dead star whose will cannot be broken, whose heart cannot be tamed. Together, you and the daughter of the throne can forge a bond strong enough to unite the last free armies. Ryan's eyes flicked toward Soraya. So that's why you dragged me into that arena, this whole slave or king thing? It was never about the fight, was it? Earl's curved in the faintest smile. It was about seeing if you were strong enough to survive me before I asked you to survive them. The ruins shook again. This time, Ryan could hear the metallic clatter of the Voidborn in the trees. The sound was wrong, like 100 knives tapping against stone. Moving closer, the king's hologram began to fade, his final words echoing through the chamber. If you fall, there will be no second chance. The Voidborn will take this world, and then Earth will be next. The light died, plunging the ruins into shadow. Soraya's blade ignited with a sharp hum, the blue glow painting her face in hard lines. We move now. Once they seal this jungle, there's no way out. They slipped into the outer clearing, the mist curling low around their boots. Shapes moved in the distant stall, jagged silhouettes, their edges shifting unnaturally. Air grew colder, the jungle going silent except for the faint hum of the Voidborn. One stepped forward into the light. It was taller than Ryan by several feet, its head smooth and faceless, its arms ending in long, serrated blades. Where its chest should have been, a pulsing black void seemed to drink in the very air. Ryan's grip tightened on his sword.
Oh.
Me, there's a plan. Soraya's eyes didn't leave the creature. The plan is to live long enough to get to the river. From there, we can reach the highlands. And if they cut us off, her smile returned, sharper now. Then we make sure they regret it. The Voidborn moved in unison, their steps perfectly. Silent. Ryan and Soraya stood back to back, the mist swirling around them. The air seemed to thicken, every breath heavier than the last. Then without warning they charged. Ryan swung first, his blade meeting the unnatural metal of the Voidborn's arm. Sparks flew, the impact rattling through his bones. Soraya was already in motion, her glowing sword cutting deep into another's torso. The black void inside writhing like liquid shadow, but for every one they struck down, two more appeared from the trees. Too many. Ryan shouted, cutting another down. Soraya's eyes narrowed. Then we keep moving. They broke through the line, running toward the sound of rushing water in the distance. The ground shook with each step, Voidborn pursuing like predators that never tired. Ryan's lungs burned, but he didn't slow. The river was close now. He could hear it roaring through the mist. But the shadows were closing in fast. Somewhere, in the chaos, Soraya glanced back at him. For the first time, there was something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Not just determination, but fear. And that fear wasn't for herself. The roar of the river grew louder until the mist parted, revealing a violent torrent of white water crashing between jagged cliffs. The current was wild, throwing up spray that coated Ryan's face. Soraya skidded to a halt beside him. There, across the river, the highland path. Ryan looked at the water. That's not a path. It's suicide. Before Soraya could answer, the Voidborn burst from the tree line, black silhouettes against the pale mist. They moved without sound, their blades catching the faint light as they spread in a wide arc. Ryan's heart pounded. They're surrounding us. Soraya's voice dropped into something almost calm. Then we break them before they close. The first Voidborn leaped forward, its serrated arms slicing through the air. Ryan ducked low, driving his sword into the creature's chest. The void inside hissed, sucking in the mist around it before. Collapsing into nothing, another came from the side. Soraya spun, her glowing blade cutting clean through its torso. The air crackled where the blade passed, the scent of ozone sharp in Ryan's lungs. They fought like cornered wolves back, never stopping. The cliff edge crumbled under their boots, the spray soaking them as the battle pushed closer to the river. But the Voidborn didn't slow. They came in waves, every movement perfectly synchronized, every strike calculated to push Ryan and Soraya one step closer to the edge. One of the creatures lunged for Ryan's head. He barely got his blade up in time, the impact sending a shock through his arms. Another Voidborn slammed into his side, knocking him toward the cliff. Soraya caught his arm, yanking him back, just as a blade passed where his head had been a second earlier. Her eyes locked with his. "Hold your ground, human." A massive shadow fell over them. Ryan turned to see something larger than any Voidborn they'd faced, a towering figure plated in black armor. Its entire head a swirling sphere of darkness. It carried a weapon, unlike the others, a staff ending in a jagged hook, glowing faintly with red cracks. The lesser Voidborn pulled back, forming a wide circle around the three of them. Soraya's expression hardened. "A Void Warlord." Ryan wiped blood from his cheek. "I'm guessing that's bad." "It's the one that commands the swarm," she said, her voice low. "Kill it, and we have a chance." The warlord moved with terrifying speed, the hook staff whipping through the air. Ryan ducked, feeling the wind of the strike skim his hair. Soraya parried the next blow, sparks and blue light clashing as their weapons met. Ryan saw an opening and swung only for the warlord's black sphere of a head to shift, absorbing the blade into nothing. His sword came out the other side, but the creature didn't flinch. "It doesn't take damage like the others," Ryan shouted. "Then aim for the core." Soraya's voice was sharp as she dodged another strike. Ryan glanced at the creature's chest just beneath the armor. A faint pulse of darkness flickered in rhythm, like a heartbeat. The warlord lunged for Soraya, but Ryan intercepted, slamming his shoulder into the armored torso. The impact jolted him, but it knocked the warlord off balance for a split second. Soraya didn't waste it. Her glowing blade thrust deep into the core, and the void inside exploded outward in a shockwave of cold and darkness. The warlord let out a sound that was neither scream nor roared, just a deep, bone-shaking hum-ahs. It collapsed in on itself. The remaining Voidborn froze, then began to retreat, their forms melting back into the mist. Ryan staggered, breathing hard. "They're running." Soraya's eyes stayed on the river. "No, they're regrouping. We just bought time, not victory." Ryan followed her gaze across the water. Through the mist, he saw movement, thousands of black shapes emerging on the opposite bank, standing perfectly still, watching the cold. In his chest had nothing to do with the spray from the river. Soraya turned to him, voice grim. "They know your face now. They won't stop until one of us is dead." The highland air was thin and sharp, carrying the smell of burnt metal from the battle below. Ryan and Soraya stood on the rocky ridge, the rising sun bleeding gold across the jagged horizon. Below them, the Voidborn gathered in the valley, thousands of black, shifting shapes, each one staring upward, as if they could feel the human's heartbeat. Ryan's sword felt heavy in his hand. "This is it, isn't it?" Soraya's voice was steady, but her eyes were fierce. "Yes, the last stand." The ground trembled. The swarm moved as one, their footsteps echoing through the valley like a single living drumbeat. Ryan swallowed. "You still haven't told me why I'm here. Why me?" Soraya's gaze flicked to him. The prophecy spoke of a warrior who bleeds in the shadow and does not vanish. One who defies the void's hunger. Ryan gave a dry laugh. "Not much of a prophecy. It's enough to terrify them," she said. "And enough to make me believe." The first wave came fast, Voidborn, leaping up the slope, their serrated arms slashing. Ryan swung hard, the impact sending black mist spiraling into the cold morning air. Soraya moved like lightning beside him, every strike cutting down two more. The sun climbed higher. The fight didn't stop. Hours passed in a blur of steel and shadow. Ryan's arms ached, his lungs burned, but he refused to fall. Every time he thought he couldn't swing again, another surge of adrenaline roared through him. The second wave hit harder. Massive Voidborn with armor fused into their skin crashed through the line, forcing Ryan and Soraya to give ground. One slammed its blade into the ridge, the rock exploding into shards. Ryan barely ducked in time. Back to the cliff. Soraya shouted. Ryan stumbled backward until the ground vanished behind him. Sheer drop into the roaring river they'd crossed the day before. The Voidborn circled. The warlord's death had slowed them before. But now they fought like a mindless tide, trying to drown the last two warriors. Ryan gritted his teeth. We're not making it out of this, are we? Soraya's eyes held something softer now. No, but they won't forget you. And that's how legends are born. A giant Voidborn lunged. Ryan met it head-on, driving his blade deep. The momentum carried them both toward the edge until a deep rumble shook the ridge. From the sky, a shadow fell. Massive engines roared, and a human warship a-reel. Steel-plated Terran vessel descended through the clouds. Its cannons already glowing hot. Ryan froze for half a second, disbelief flooding his chest. Soraya didn't stop fighting. You're people. They came for you. The warship's guns unleashed a storm of fire. The valley below erupted in explosions, Voidborn scattering in every direction. The smell of burning void filled the air. Ryan turned to Soraya. Looks like the prophecy. Forgot one thing. Her brow furrowed. What's that? He smiled through the blood and exhaustion. Humans never fight alone. The warship's landing ramps slammed down. Soldiers in full combat armor poured out, blasters spitting fire. Ryan and Soraya charged forward together, the ridge trembling under the final clash. The Voidborn broke. The valley fell silent except for the wind. Soraya sheathed her glowing blade, looking at Ryan with something between respect and warning. This isn't the end. They'll be back. Ryan stared at the horizon, where black clouds gathered far away. Then we'll be ready. Somewhere deep inside, he knew the war was just beginning. The battlefield was quiet now. Too quiet. Human warship hovered above the shattered valley, its engines humming like a beast at rest. Smoke curled from the blackened ground where the Voidborn had fallen. Ryan stood at the cliff's edge, helmet under his arm, eyes scanning the carnage below. Soraya joined him, her blue skin streaked with dust and blood. You fight like someone who's been doing this forever. Ryan's lips twitched into a half-smile. And you fight like someone who's never known fear. Her gaze drifted upward to the endless sky beyond the warship. That's the problem. Human. Fear is sometimes the only thing that keeps us alive. Sharp crack split. The silence. Ryan's head snapped toward the far ridge. Something moved there fast, but not Voidborn. A single figure in black armor, tall and still. Watching them, Soraya stiffened. That is not possible. But the figure raised one hand. The air shimmered. A deep, impossible voice rolled across the valley like a whisper and a roar all at once. You killed my hounds. Now you've seen the hunter. Before Ryan could react, the figure dissolved into smoke, carried away by the wind. Soraya's voice was barely a breath. He wasn't Voidborn. He was worse. Ryan looked at the empty ridge, the weight of a new war pressing on his shoulders. Then I guess we're not done yet. Above them, the warship's captain called down from the comms. Drake, we need to leave now. But as the ramp closed behind him and the ship rose into the dawn, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest enemy hadn't even stepped onto the field yet. Far beyond the jungle world, in the cold reaches of uncharted space, something was waiting.